Welcome to Conversations That Matter. Today's conversations are with chefs. Chefs are the hottest stars these days, with their own cookbooks, pots and pans, restaurants all over the world, and of course their own TV cooking shows. People love to learn about food, and they love their chefs. Our first conversation is with Jose Andres. Jose Andres is a very successful chef with restaurants in Washington, D.C., Beverly Hills, Virginia, and Las Vegas. He is often a guest on morning shows and hosted his own TV cooking show. He has received numerous awards such as Chef of the Year, A-List Chef, and the coveted James Beard Foundation's Outstanding Chef Award, the highest honor a chef in America can achieve. We spoke to Jose Andres in Washington, D.C. We spoke to him about cooking, about health, and about hunger. This is what he had to say. I just wanted to ask you about the motivation that you had to become a chef and your interest in food in general.
My motivation to become a chef really came from watching my mother and my father cooking at home. Obviously, especially your father, no? Because when you see the man of the house cooking, kind of you are influenced by watching him. So, you know, my father would cook almost every other weekend for friends and family. And since I was very little, I got stuck with the idea of one day cooking. Not becoming a chef, but cooking. Mm-hmm. So it's in Spain, the great thing is that many men cook. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something necessary. I think in a household should be responsibility for the man as much as for the woman to cook. Should not be only something left to the woman anymore. In the old days, maybe. But in the 21st century, no way, Jose. Everyone should have the responsibility of feeding the family.
That's very good. So that was great. You had a great role model and that you saw that was very natural for you to cook. When did you decide that you wanted to become, I guess, serious about it and maybe making a living at that?
Just thinking in a serious way to becoming a chef kind of happened by I believe that life always decides for you. You want to believe that you are the one making the decisions, but life kind of creates the path for you. So, I was 15th. I was not doing very well at school. I love to learn, but I'm a guy that always loved to learn in a different way. And it was this opening in a new culinary school in Barcelona. And my father kind of told me, do you want to join this school? On paper, you have to be 18th, but because it's a brand new school and they need the students, they may make an exception for you. So I was like, okay, I like that. So I joined the school and I never looked back. The fun part is that I never graduated because it was the same thing. In the moment I began cooking, I realized that yes, studying was great, but I enjoy so much being in a kitchen and learning every day. So I never graduated, but 25, 26 years later, I'm very happy that I took the right path. With that, I don't mean that not studying is the best way. Probably 25, 30 years ago was one thing, but today competition is so much higher. Today I will never ever recommend anyone not to move forward on anything without studying. 7, 6. And especially on cooking, because competition on cooking today is unbelievable. So if anything, you have to be today more prepared, not only on the pure cooking techniques, but on the business side, on the marketing side, on the human resources side. If anything today, I will tell everyone, well, I'm sorry, if you are thinking that you only are going to learn cooking and becoming a chef by working, you are already too late. Today, I will recommend everyone to have the proper education so they can really be as successful as they can be.
I want to ask a little bit about the business part of it. Obviously, you're very successful. You have many restaurants, and they're all at top level. People love them. But I do know that running a business can take the fun out of it. Do you enjoy the business part of it as much as you do the actual creating and cooking part of it?
Creativity versus business. That's the eternal question. not only on cooking, on restaurant business, but on any business. Luckily for me, I always invested in creating a team, investing time, investing money, to make sure that I could have people dedicated to the business aspect, to the human resources, to negotiating a new loan with the bank, anything that didn't have to do with cooking. So I can dedicate myself purely to cooking. And myself, I even went a step further. I'm a guy that gets very, very annoyed cooking every day because I don't like to repeat the dish twice. So in a restaurant that you have to repeat the dishes, sometimes for many weeks in a row, I'm a guy that will not succeed at that. So I managed to put myself always in the area that I will be in a part of my business that I will only be creating the new things. But it took me almost 25 years to be there.
Yes.
I knew that I didn't like to be every day cooking in a station. I knew that I didn't like to repeat myself every day. I knew I didn't want to be handling payroll or I didn't want to be handling a hiring, even kind of his part. So I created a team that gave me support. So at the end of the day, I can only dedicate myself mainly to creating. But again, it didn't happen by chance. It happened because I created that path that led me to where I am today.
Talking about health, I know today a lot of the concentration was on youth and children, and of course, that's very important. But what are your comments about the elderly? That's a large part of our society today, and many of them have bad eating habits. What are your thoughts about healthy eating for people over 65?
Well, the elderly, it's great you mentioned this because sometimes it seems they are like the forgotten part of our society. Everyone talks about hunger in childhood, about obesity in children. Those people which we have to thank to be where we are today, our grandparents and others. I've been I'm the chairman emeritus right now of an organization called Andisi Central Kitchen, which was founded by Robert Egger right here in Washington, D.C. Only in D.C. we feed around 6,000 people a day. And many of the people we feed are elderly people, the grandparents of America. And this is a part of our society that we cannot be forgetting. What an organization like the Kitchen does is we have a great net of volunteers that cook every day foods that are donated by different companies that they have overproduction, let's say, of apples or tomatoes. We create those foods, we transform them into meals to serve the community that may need those meals. Many of the volunteers we have come from this kind of age stage that they are retired or they are elderly and kind of, they don't have a work to do technically anymore. But it's a great way to see how they keep donating back to society by donating their time. But at the same time, kind of you are telling them, well, you are important, are meaningful to who we are. Not because you arrive to a certain age stage means here we park you and we forget about you. Actually, those is a segment of the population that because their experience, because their expertise, they can bring so much to the table. And specifically those in need are some that we cannot forget, and also we need to keep finding great ways to make sure that they can be part of finding solutions, in this case to hunger.
What kinds of food do you think are best, or is it basically the same thing that you're saying to everybody, your vegetables, your,
For third age, for older people?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a nutritionist myself. I'm a chef, and technically, if you're a chef and you feed people, you are supposed to be very, very good at what to be serving to everyone or anyone. But even today, it's a lot of controversies in what's the perfect diet to be feeding people. At the end, usually elderly people will have more health issues than than younger people. Hey, I'm 41, I'm already, all my body is breaking down and I already have pains in every corner. But imagine when I become 65 or 70. So probably everyone will need to get a dietitian or doctor to tell you this, that, or that. But precisely I will say that older people on paper was our belief that they were the wisest people in terms of what to eat, when to eat it, how to eat it. Sometimes, unfortunately, we are not learning. We are learning that that was not all the time true. In the old days, my grandmother will tell me, hey, you need to get fatter. You look too skinny. You know, wow, this is 35 years ago. Things are changing. Today we cannot keep telling our children that anymore because actually we want them to be skinnier. But what foods to recommend the third age, to recommend the elderly? I mean, one of the things I like in America is that usually the elderly look much healthier and more kind of active in their day-to-day lives. Where I come from in Spain, usually when people get to the 65, 70 years old, they become kind of staying home and not very active in their social life. I think the diet you have to have should be, hey, you have to eat less of everything and make sure you put enough calcium and enough vitamins into your diet. But the exercise, I think, is something like everyone has to keep doing. And by exercise, I don't mean you become 75 and you begin playing basketball, but to be active, walking around the community.
I think one of the joys in life is eating. It is for me. But watching what you eat, they say eating in moderation, but the exercise really gives you a lot more of those opportunities to eat some of the food that you enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about fighting obesity or nutrition, everyone talks about the right foods. But we need to remember that we need to keep being active. And I don't know, in the old days, I will go to school every day by walking. Sometimes I will have to walk 20 minutes each way every day. My father will never take me to school using the car. We'll walk. Today, sometimes my daughters, they are 30 seconds away from school and we take them by car. You know, it's great we're celebrating 21st century, that we have cars, we have technology that makes us move quicker, on paper wiser, but also it's not a very healthy lifestyle. So whatever age we do, if you're young, if you're older, you have to keep being physically active, putting aside how smartly are you gonna eat. If you don't have certain level of movement, kind of sports in your life, even if it's a simple walk every day, your health is not gonna be as complete as it can be.
What dish are you most proud of that you feel like you helped create?
It's many dishes I am very proud of creating, because some of them, unfortunately, only very, very, very few people, they've eaten those dishes. You know, we did one that was encapsulation of olive oil in sugar. It was probably the first time in the history that olive oil was being caramelized. But you know, I've only served this dish to a few hundred people. I'm probably the proudest. I was recently in a trip to Haiti, trying to bring solar kitchens as an alternative to charcoal and creating health issues because the fumes the charcoal releases into the air, and et cetera, et cetera. And I was there cooking for 10 days straight in one of my first visits. And probably were not some of the best dishes I ever cooked in my life, because, you know, I used to cook with whatever was around. But I've never felt so appreciated, and I never saw such happy people after eating my food as during those moments. So, you know, not necessarily the best dish was my best accomplishment, but in this case, the trip to Haiti, those faces in many of those children and people, their appreciation and how well kind of they reacted to the dishes. Well, by my standards, maybe not being the best dish I ever cooked, by many reasons, was one of the ones that gave me the most personal pleasure.
But good chefs are not just in the big cities. We spoke to a local chef who brought Italy to West Texas. This is what he had to say.
Well, that started 24 years ago. He decided to bring these ideas to West Texas, straight from Italy. Recipes from the family to show these people different type of food. We started putting all the ideas together, and we found out that people really like this kind of food. That's how we started long time ago, and we've been together since then.
When I came in 1984, I started little from scratch, little by little. It was not successful, but it was just enough for me to say, I think I'm get it. It was not tough, but it was not easy. I love wine, I love food, I enjoy life, because wine for me is just, it's life. It teaches you something. I learn from other people, I bring it to me.
We've been together in good times and hard times, and we just stay together, and I want to be here until he decides, but I mean, we've been together for a long time. Like I said, we grew up together, we create new recipes, and like I said, he brings ideas and I put the season on the flavor.
Quality is very important. If you go cheap, people notice right away. That's what we do, quality and very passion.
Carmen gave me the opportunity to work with here. And Carmen is part of my life. So Venecia is, I would say, my second house, because I spend more time over here than at my house. Even if we pay more, but we make sure that it's fresh, and that's what I like to do. I like to cook a fresh fish with some fresh vegetables. Do the pastas, like I said, like if I'm cooking for myself. We respect the Italian food. We love the Italian food because that's how we do our living, and we're not gonna throw that away in one plate. That's how we every single plate, every single sauce that we do, we try our best.
We spoke to Johnny Hernandez, who is part of the Culinary Institute of America and a very popular and successful chef in San Antonio. This is what he had to say.
Seems like chefs are really hot right now. Everybody watches the cooking shows and everybody has their favorite chef. You think that's the case here in San Antonio?
Well, San Antonio seems to be a little bit slower than maybe the rest of the country at times when in regards to, let's say, culinary arts or the elevated cuisines and stuff. I think we're finally really making a name for ourselves. I think the school is going to help also elevate our community. But it is very trendy. And it's cool to be a chef. It is a very difficult industry, and I mentor a lot of students, and I always encourage them to look beyond that and really look at it as something that you have a lot of love and desire to do, because it is an industry where you have to devote a lot of time and sacrifice before you can actually become one of those chefs on TV, The Paella Challenge was created to bring awareness to the new culinary school that is here in San Antonio now. I'm an alumni of the Culinary Institute of America up in Hyde Park. And we opened up our San Antonio campus just a couple years ago. And I felt that we needed to do something to bring awareness to the school. And to have a culinary school at the level of the CIA is, I think, a special thing for San Antonio. So the young people don't have to travel all the way to New York. And of course, like any good education, it's expensive and it costs money. So I know that I needed a lot of help when I went to school. And that's why we created the event, to help the youth and help those aspiring chefs. So I got a lot of chefs together. Most friends of mine are friends of friends, and we created an event that chefs would enjoy, and I felt that people would want to come and see chefs perform.
Why did you choose paella?
For a couple different reasons. The thing about paella is, for a chef, it is not that difficult. I think it's a very simple and easy technique. The time frame to make a paella is about an hour and a half, and it has a lot of rice. So it's economical to make, and it can be made within the time frame of an event. So it's an appropriate time for a chef to make a paella or two, but it also can feed a lot of people because it has a lot of rice in it.
Good.
So it's also like an exotic dish, It's in Spanish, right?
Cooking shows have contributed greatly to the growing interest of the life of a chef. As a result, culinary schools are popping up in communities throughout the country. We spoke to a head of a culinary school in a West Texas community college, and this is what he had to say.
This season of Chopped.
Surprise, I think, is probably you see a kind of a resurgence of culinary through these food channels and various, reality TV programs, things like that. It helps with enrollment, which is kind of a double-edged sword because you want to make sure that people are doing it for the right reason and not saying, hey, when I get finished, I'm going to be on a TV show. You say possibly, but not likely. That may be a stronger desire for them to work for themselves possibly than work for someone else. And I guess that's okay, but it's very, very difficult to do. So we want to be as realistic with our students as we possibly can about the hours of being a chef, the lifestyle. It's different. It's not a bad thing, it's just a different. It's not 8 to 5. It is probably the furthest thing from 8 to 5.
You know, on Triple D, we're all about finding the...
As opposed to the glamour aspect that they probably see most. Look, when we were kids, we maybe saw Julia Child on TV, Justin Wilson. And yeah, now you've got a total channel devoted to it, travel and food pairing shows and wine, and it's great. It's a fantastic thing. But that, like we say, that and the access of technology have helped us, a student can go to school anywhere in the world right now if they want to. Tough to compete with that market, but it is what it is. Mostly for us right now, they're local. For us right now, the goal is to strengthen our presence in the community and build off that relationship. We will have the nicest facility in this entire area for culinary. So that will help maybe recruit out of this area. But we have some schools in Midland and Odessa that can help us recruit that some of the students that are already taking courses in culinary have already expressed a desire, an interest in doing it. So that kind of helps us get them in the door. Passion's hard to teach. We can give you some skills, but to really be into it, even mundane daily routines you have to be enthusiastic, you have to do them well. To have a state-of-the-art facility here, it's interesting. There's a market for it, and so that is probably the biggest thing is that, it's gonna be a slow race that we're gonna win, but it's gonna take time to build it up. But the facility is a big part of it. The students' experience in a field such as this, there has to be a lot of hands-on kind of technical repetition of these skills that they have to do that can't be done in a classroom. So the kitchens become the classroom.
I hope you enjoyed our conversations today with chefs. Until next time, I'm Lydia Madrigal.